Alright, hi everybody. My name is Andrea Hudgins. This is my Pecha presentation for my Design Tools 1 class at Full Sail University. It's titled An Imaginative Childhood. This is basically going to be about me and my childhood and different things while I was growing up. My brothers, I'll give some examples of some things my brothers came up with when they were little for using their imagination, but we used to play this game we called it the lava game, where we would jump from pieces of furniture like in the living room and whatnot, and the floor, we said it was lava, so if you fell while you were jumping from like the couch to the love seat to the ottoman to the chair or whatnot, and if you fell onto the floor, you died because you touched lava. We have Albert Einstein here, and he had a famous quote, which was he said that imagination was more important than knowledge. And when we're kids, we have such a vivid imagination, and we come up with all these ideas and whatnot to play games, and we come up with stories and whatnot. One of the things that we used to do when we were kids was build forts, and we make forts out of blankets, out of sticks, wood, cardboard, couch cushions, pillowcases, all those different things we would make these forts with, and we'd play in them either indoors or outside. And that was just one thing I used to do with my brothers all the time when I was a kid. Another thing we used to do was we used to play the Sea Monsters game at the swimming pool or whatnot, or in the lake or the ocean or whatnot, where one kid would be the sea monster and then all the other kids would swim around, and the kid that was the sea monster would, grab your leg or pull your swim trunks down, and the game would end because some kid got too rough. But we would play the sea monster game. When we were adults, we don't use our imagination quite as much because we're more worried about what's happening at work and what our kids are doing, and we have bills to pay and the light bill and the car payment and whatnot. So we don't use our imaginations like we do when we were kids. So we still have imagination, but we just don't use them very well. And then when we get older, we start to mature, and especially when we're teenagers, we're so set on being thought of as weird because of our ideas, so we don't share our imagination as much when we're maturing and becoming older. We just don't want people to laugh at us or joke around with us, so we don't, as kids, we don't care. And then when we're kids, we come up with these irrational fears because we've seen a scary movie, or we had a story read to us, or we read a spooky story, so we get scared and we start to make up these ideas. So I'm going to go over a little bit of some ideas that my brothers kind of had when they were little with their imaginations, and then some things that I came up with. We watched this movie, Stephen King's Silver Bullet, and my brother Derek watched this movie, and he became terrified that a werewolf was going to kill him in his sleep in the middle of the night. And for like a whole week, he just would not sleep because he was just terrified of this werewolf in the Silver Bullet movie by Stephen King. And this is my dad here with my mom, and my dad was in the Marines when we were younger, and he bought this plastic sword from the store, and he told my brother that it was made out of silver, and that if he took the sword to him to bed every night, he could kill the werewolf with it. So my brother would take the sword to bed, and thinking that the werewolf was going to come get him. Here we go, we got my brother here. So my dad basically got my brother to go back to bed with the plastic sword he bought, because he thought the sword was made out of silver, so werewolves die if they get cut with silver, or stabbed with the sword that's made out of silver, or shot with a silver bullet, or whatnot. So that's how my dad got my brother to go back to bed. And then we have Chucky movies. When we were little, we watched these Chucky movies, and what's kind of funny is my youngest brother Todd, he got my buddy doll for Christmas, and he was terrified that this My Buddy doll, because it resembled Chucky so much, that it was gonna come to life and murder everybody in our house. And then here we go, we got my littlest brother Todd, Todd Jr. We called him TJ when he was little. A little cute here in this picture, but some of the things, especially with the My Buddy doll that he got one year for Christmas when we lived in Hawaii, and he swore up and down that this doll was gonna come to life and murder everybody in our house. And then here we go, we got a picture of My Buddy doll, and it does a little bit resemble Chucky. But he's seen them Chucky movies, so he was like, oh, this My Buddy doll is gonna kill everybody in my house. So one day this doll just ended up disappearing, and we had no idea where it went. And come to find out, what had happened was my brother had ended up throwing it up on the roof. So with this imagination of my brother's, where he thought that the dolls were going to come to life and kill everybody while we slept, Um, we were under the impression that he thought every doll in the house was gonna do this because I had dolls, Barbie dolls and whatnot. But then, so he ends up throwing. He opens his window in his room and he ends up throwing the My Bloody doll on the roof. My dad discovered it when we were moving out from the house in Hawaii to come back to the United States. My dad discovered the My Bloody doll on the roof of the house. So it was kind of funny that he ended up throwing the doll up there and getting rid of the doll because we were all like, what happened to the doll? But when I was younger, I had a traumatizing event with a tiny hammerhead shark that was caught while I went fishing with my dad and my grandfather. And after that, I was definitely terrified of fish. So I had this fish phobia. I just did not like fish of any kind, even if it was like, you know, a pretty clownfish or whatnot. But with that fish fear, I came up with this fear that I was afraid I would not swim in dark water for the longest time because I was so scared of what was in the dark water because I couldn't see it. And I was always afraid like things would come up, you know, from underneath the dark water and they would get me. So I would never swim in dark water ever. And when we came back to the United States from Hawaii, the Pacific or the Atlantic Ocean is so murky and brown, I would not swim in that water. So then I would swim in swimming pools here back in the United States, living on the East Coast, because I thought that nothing could get me. So I came with this idea that there were sharks put in the pool, and they like a door would or a window would open up inside the bottom of the pool, and the sharks would, you know, get me while I was swimming in the pool. So the spark of my imagination created those crazy fears and whatnot. So that's a little bit funny that how that happened, and my imagination created all those things. So